It is always game day in Cleveland. He's Daryl Ryder. I'm Andy Baskin. We are brought to you by our good friends at Bryant and Smiley One, Northeast Ohio's premier service when you need heating or cooling work. And heating work is what we're all going to need across Northeast Ohio, I guess, according to the weather forecasters who have the greatest job on earth, because when they're wrong, no one calls them out on it. So we'll see what happens during Snowmageddon here in Northeast Ohio. You can't live without eyewitness action. What else? News, whatever, to tell you what's going on. Don't step outside. Are you kidding? There's snow outside.
I didn't even get my snow shovel. That's how much I give to you know what's about the fact it's almost December. It snows here. Or at least it's supposed to snow here.
You know what they should say? Don't drive like an ass. All right? That's all there is to it.
I mean, they can say that when it's like sunny and 80. True story. Driving down
right
I-90 today.
Don't drive.
And a dude in a Lexus had to have been doing 100 miles an hour, flying in between cars and trucks and going through all three lanes. I was waiting to see him just lose control. Like that. I mean, that's how people drive.
Was the road wet?
No, dry as a bone, but like people drive like the speed limit is a suggestion on any. It's terrifying out there sometimes. So like, stop driving like a bunch of knuckleheads. Like, I mean, I'll be sitting on one of the neighborhood streets here in the neighborhood at a red light, and some jerk 2 cars behind will come around in a no passing situation and go through the light. Like, and I'm just like, oh, I guess red lights are also now suggestions along with the speed limit. So please, like,
does that mean drive really, really fast?
I don't know. Just if you're listening and watching this podcast or vlogcast or whatever we call this thing, just be careful when you're out there driving, and
and this is a public service message.
Stoplights, speed limits, those are not suggestions. Those are laws. So please, follow them so that everyone can be safe on the roads.
So you don't kill anybody. All right, let's get into the Browns here. Injury news came out the day after the Broncos lost, the disaster in Denver.
And I just found out why there was 50-mile-an-hour winds coming out of the west on Monday afternoon. That was the sigh of relief from Los Angeles.
Now I get it. All right, so Myles Garrett, day-to-day. That is really good news.
Yes, he's day-to-day, but I'm just going to caution everyone. At one point, Deshaun Watson was day-to-day, and that was the longest day-to-day injury in the history of sports. So we take it with a grain of salt. But Kevin Stefanski answered in the affirmative when he was asked that there was no structural damage revealed in Myles Garrett's MRI, and he said, yes, that is correct. So good news there. As Stefanski put it, Myles is sore. And the expectation is similar to what Garrett told reporters in Denver Sunday night, that he's going to play with this thing. He's going to play through it. So don't know how much practice he's going to be doing, but he's going to make himself available. The concerning thing for me, Andy, is the effectiveness. It's great. Okay, if he's available, that's one thing now. But can Myles Garrett be Myles Garrett with this injury? Last year, I looked it up. He had like 8.5 sacks after that car accident.
Right.
Playing through, again, the left shoulder injury. And this is the left shoulder. It's the same one he banged up last year. So that's my chief concern. I don't know where you come out on that, but I guess, okay, great. But my number one question now becomes, if there's no structural damage, how effective is Myles Garrett going to be able to be playing through this injury?
Well, let's just see how it plays out. I want to see what happens this week, and how much he's able to be active, or if he's favoring one side over another, or if he's even able to get on the field. So I think it's just, it's, even if he doesn't play, other teams now have to prepare for him to play, because they don't know until the last second if he's going to show up. So I guess, in that world, as far as having strategy against your defense, other teams have to approach the Browns as if he is playing. I don't know how else they could look at it. But even if he isn't at 100%, because the word I was hearing out of the locker room yesterday, Daryl, he was done for the season. So I got to tell you, this was a real sigh of relief that there were guys in the locker room yesterday thinking that he was done for the season.
Yeah, that thought that he was done.
Yeah.
Here's the other part of this, too. He has now been passed. He's no longer the NFL sack leader. TJ Watt has taken over that mark. And he's been tied by Khalil Mack of the Chargers, who also has 13. So TJ's got 13.5. Khalil's got 13. Myles has 13. Josh Allen from Jacksonville. Oh, yeah, you get to see him in a few weeks. He's got a dozen. And then Danielle Hunter from the Minnesota Vikings, who, as we record this on Monday evening, he will be playing on Monday Night Football. He'll have an opportunity if he has a pretty good night. He has a chance to either pass Myles or take over the NFL league lead as well. So there's that other component to this too. Not that his personal stats matter, and I still would like to see at some point him win Defensive Player of the Year. He's had an outstanding season to this point. He has had an historic year, or I should say an historic career, if you will.
Sure.
With what he's been able to do in his first 100 games. He's certainly, in my view, headed to Canton, Ohio, if he continues to play at this level. But look, I'm of the belief that if they don't have an effective Myles Garrett, considering, and we'll get into the quarterback situation here in a little bit, considering the condition of the Browns offense right now with their quarterback situation and the hot garbage that they're stuck with right now, they need Myles Garrett healthy. They need Myles Garrett to be productive, because this defense is what's going to have to carry the day, because Kevin Stefanski certainly isn't going to let the running backs do that. He's just going to, sling it 50 times a game, which to me is pretty stupid, but that's just me. And so I am, I am concerned about Garrett's effectiveness. Let's be honest about too, Andy. He got held like on every freaking play by the Broncos. I mean, he was getting held and flags weren't coming out. I think he might be the most held player in the NFL. You agree or
He's got like LeBron. Like, remember how LeBron would get hacked really hard, and every once in a while you'd be like, man, is he acting? But then you go back and watch the replay of the game and you're like, wow, man, they really did hit him hard all game. They did hit him hard. It's the same thing.
It's like playground rules, right? No blood, no foul. Like, I feel like that's how they treat.
Although Dorian Thompson-Robinson felt the blood yesterday, so.
Yeah, he did.
This is an interesting point, and I want to get to the rest of the injuries here in a second. But and Jamal White brought this up yesterday. Like, the hit that hit Dorian Thompson-Robinson yesterday, like, if it's a quarterback, that's a 15-yard penalty every time.
Yes.
But you do realize that same play happens to running backs pretty much every other play.
Yeah.
And they never call the helmet on a running back.
Well,
they never call leading with your helmet on a running backs never get that kind of protection.
Could you imagine what the phone calls to your show would have been like Monday if no flag was thrown on that play and the result was the result?
Yeah.
Right? Where he left with a bloody mouth, and
they had to make some kind of call there.
They had to throw the flag in that situation.
Yeah. And even they could argue that he tried to launch his body even at the worst, right? I mean, that's even worst case scenario. And I tried to use his body as a weapon. He launched himself.
Yeah. He lowered his head too.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's some reason he's bleeding. I don't know, unless his tooth cut open his lip. I don't know how else he was bleeding. There had to have been some kind of contact to make a wound happen, right?
Yeah.
It's not that tough. All right, what other injuries are we looking at as far as updates?
X-rays negative for Amari Cooper, so that's good news.
Ooh, that's a dodge bullet there.
Like us all.
Did you think that was a cheap shot?
No. That wasn't
the receivers on the Browns did.
You
saw Elijah Moore. I mean, they were.
I think Elijah Moore needs to worry about catching footballs.
Yeah, they were barking it up a little bit after that.
I know he was, and again, I think Elijah Moore needs to worry about catching footballs right now.
Okay, fair enough.
But I didn't think it was a dirty play. It was a football play. Like, Amari tried to make the catch, and he got hit while trying to make the catch.
Yeah, that was. I didn't see it that way either. I was kind of
similar to the look. I understand why Bronco fan was unhappy that flag got thrown on the DTR hit, but it had to be thrown.
Yeah, there's no way. Could you imagine being the referees having to deal with the league office the next day? How did you not even call a penalty on that?
Well, right? And I think this is something we can get into, is the lack of public accountability for the officials. Like, we now have a public accountability report every week from the NFL, where they post all the fines from the previous week, Saturday afternoon. I think they need to start holding officials accountable publicly too.
How though? What are you going to do? You're going to shame them? Is that what you're going to do?
Do what the NBA
I mean, they're
does.
already saying, but that 2-minute
Did you
report
see
at
that
the end
call
of
in
the NBA.
Houston, by the way? That sideline call, 2
I did
feet
not.
down, ball in hand, and they ruled it incomplete. Even like I can't believe it.
With replay?
I don't know. I don't know if it was a replay, but I saw the still photos, and they're like, yeah, this was an incomplete pass. Dude had 2 toes on the ground. The ball was in his hands as he, reaching up for it. It was right there in
Crazy.
his hand. And they called it incomplete. Like, the NFL's got an officiating problem. Like, the officiating is pretty craptastic in the National Football League on a week-to-week basis. And this isn't just a the Cleveland Browns are being picked on type thing. Like, no, this is a league-wide problem where the officiating is not up to the standard that it needs to be. And especially now that the NFL has embraced the legalization of sports betting, and you can't watch an NFL game now without being bombarded by the ads, right?
Or lines or over-unders
right.
or all that stuff. Yeah,
So I think that they're going to have to come up with some sort of accountability system, but they had to throw that flag with
Yeah, they had to.
DTR. I think that they got it right in not throwing a flag on the Amari Cooper hit. I think that was just football being football. That it's a violent game and stuff happens, and I didn't feel like there was a targeting thing there. I thought it was a defensive player trying to make a play in a bang situation.
All right, Daryl, hang on a second. Let's come back. We'll talk more about the injuries here in a second. We're going to take a quick time out. We'll come right back. We're going to talk injuries, and we're also going to talk about play calling and what Kevin Stefanski had to say about his own play calling. That's all straight ahead right here on It's Always Game Day in Cleveland.